Hey there, I'm Ari from Tech Buyers Guru, and I've got another product on the bench here for review today on the channel. This is the POWERbot Robot Vacuum R7260 from Samsung. Now this is an ultra premium model. It comes in at a suggested price of $900. And the first question you might be asking is, well, what makes it better than all the robot vacuums out there that are like $200 or $300? It's a question I have too, which is why I'd actually like to review it. Now, truth be told, up until a few years ago, there was really only one robot manufacturer out there on the market. That was iRobot with its Roomba. In fact, it was so successful that Roomba basically became synonymous with robot vacuums. But since that time, iRobot's received a whole lot of competition from every angle. It's got the big names like Samsung coming in and trying to target it from the top, and it's got a lot of smaller startup manufacturers coming in at much lower prices. I'd say well below $300. Trying to target it from below. That's really undermining iRobot's business. So the big question for me is, well, what does Samsung have to gain here? You know, Samsung already dominates whole industries. They're the biggest TV manufacturer in the world. They're the biggest smartphone manufacturer in the world. Those are pretty big categories of tech. Why does it want to be the biggest vacuum manufacturer in the world? Well, I don't know that it ever could be at this point, but it might be the best manufacturer in the world if it really applies its technological prowess to this category. So with all that said, let's open the box and see what we get inside. First up, we have the combo brush and brush cover. That makes me wonder if I'm going to have to do a little assembly on this, or if this is a spare. So that's, anyone familiar with a robotic vacuum will kind of recognize that as the brush that goes in the bottom of the robot and sweeps up the dust for you. I get a pack of batteries, which is no doubt for the included remote. Now, given that this has voice controls, which I am going to be testing, I'm not sure that the remote is that interesting to me, but for people who are not up to speed on voice assistants, they may actually want that remote. So you get batteries for that. See what we have here. Oh, this is the big power brick for the charger. Nothing particularly subtle here. This is pretty big. A magnetic strip. Now I think that might be for directing the robot away from places, but we'll have to see what that's for. And we've got what looks like a filter. And then we've got the robot itself. Let's take a look. Samsung has done something a little bit different in that rather than being circular like all the other competitors out there, it's actually made this look kind of like a vacuum, right? Like the front of it kind of resembles the front of a regular vacuum that you might push along. So they haven't really tried to copy all the other robot vacuum makers out there who've just done these round robots. They've actually made a vacuum that maybe makes more sense. We'll see, you know, like, all these years people haven't been using round vacuum heads. They've been using flat vacuum heads. So maybe that makes a lot of sense. So it actually looks quite nice. It does have a lot of transparency here so you can see inside. And you can actually pop the tray is actually in the middle of the vacuum as opposed to in the back like a lot of vacuums. It's pretty small. The canister here is quite small, I'd say, versus others that I've used. So that's going to fill up pretty quickly. So we'll see how that works when I actually get it going. But it is certainly pretty slick, right? Just that push button control. And if you can see right up in here, there's actually a camera. Maybe it's better seen from this angle. It's actually a camera in there. And it'll be interesting to see how it uses that camera to help its navigation. So you also have a couple of touch controls on the front of the bot. Obviously, start and pause, and maybe go to dock, or in probably spot clean right here. So let's give this fancy robot something to do. So I've just set up the robot, and it's charging for the first time here. The instructions do suggest that you put the charger right up against the wall, which I've done. And interestingly, it says that it should ideally be aligned with the wood grain of a floor, which suggests that it won't work as well on carpeting. I'm testing it here on a wood floor, but I will test it on carpeting a little later in this review. So first things first was I wanted to get this set up with the smartphone app, which is Smartthings. Unfortunately, what I found was I actually had to use the remote, which I desperately wanted to just throw away because I'm not interested in having a remote to control my vacuum. I don't want this sitting around my living room. People ask me, oh, what's that for? Oh, my vacuum. Okay, unfortunately, I had to use it to set up the Smartthings app. This is the Smartthings app. It shows the basic controls you get. You have the auto control, spot cleaning. You can turn it, I guess, direct it to go forward. The battery indicator just shows you the 3 bars. It does not show you anything more specific than that. I'd like to see something much more fine-grained than that. I'd love to see like that I'm 27% or 80%. There's 3 levels of suction power: quiet, normal, and turbo. I think I'll actually set that to normal mode. Oh, and it actually speaks when you do that. You can schedule it, and that is the most interesting part of the Smartthings app. You can schedule it to go, every day, repeat weekly. So I'm curious with these manual cleaning. That is really kind of strange. I don't know why I would want to remote control my vacuum. I'm all into lots of remote control products, vehicles, drones. I'm not so much into a remote control vacuum. I'm not really interested in driving my vacuum around the house. So I'm not going to use those controls. So that's what you get with the smartphone app. But honestly, I'm not at all interested in using this because I want to use Alexa. So let's go over to Alexa and set this device up. Now, how do I do it? I probably need to go to Skills. And then I'm going to look for, well, I'll type in Samsung Bot. I don't actually know whether that'll work, but we're going to give it a try. Samsung Bot did not come up. How about Robot? You know what it might be looking, oh yeah, here we go, Samsung Robot Vacuum. So let's take a look. Enable to use. So let's say I can tell Alexa to tell the Samsung to turn on my robot Alexa, vacuum. Okay. Ask Samsung to start the robot vacuum.
Starting auto cleaning. Please remove obstacles on the floor for more effective cleaning of vacuum before and after cleaning.
Now how about another one? I'm going to try to get it to pause without returning to its dock. Like, for instance, if you just want it to stop momentarily because you need to walk by or because you need to move something, but you don't want it to go back to its dock. Alexa, tell Samsung to pause the robot vacuum. All right, we're going to do a demo here of the most challenging area in my house to vacuum, and that is the dining room. And the reason that it is so challenging is because the dining room table has all these chair legs, table legs, all sorts of stuff. These are called bot traps. Okay? This is a real challenge, and frankly, in a lot of cases with other robot vacuums I've used, I've decided it's really not worth using a robot for that purpose because it just gets stuck. And either it can't get itself out or it just does the same area over and over because it's just stuck in between some chair legs. So let's see what it does as it approaches these chairs. It's already encountered a chair leg. It's attempting to maneuver around it, hit a second chair leg. See if it turns again to try to get in there. No. It's given up and it's leaving the room entirely. So because this vacuum doesn't have a rounded front end, it has a little bit of trouble negotiating edges. So let's see if it can kind of vacuum along the edge. Notice that it stopped long before it got to that cabinet and is vacuuming a few inches away from it. Now it's going to hit an edge there. It really doesn't want to get too close. Round vacuums tend to just kind of stick to the sides and continue to vacuum along that edge bit by bit as they kind of rotate along them. Because this has a more traditional front suction area, it really can't rotate around edges. See right there, a round vacuum would actually spin, whereas this vacuum has to back up to get out of the way of that edge. Look what it's attempting to do. This is unfortunately not the most intelligent way to handle that trim along the floor. Now I've just given the bot the command to return to its dock. Its dock is really not that far away. It's right over here in the corner where it started. Now I would think an advanced bot would recall where its dock is. But as you can see, it's having a little trouble navigating. This is a pretty wide open area. It should not be making that turn at this point. Yeah, in truth, I just have not seen any evidence that the navigation system on this robot is any more advanced than what I've seen on the $300 robots I've tried. It does tend to go in straight lines more than those other robots, which may be advantageous on carpet, but it's not actually any more intelligent about the way that it navigates around a room or around furniture, around table, chair legs, etc. It looks pretty lost to me. So one last issue I have with this is once you're done using it, it's really hard to open this dust bin. While it's easy to pop it out of the machine, to get this out, you're going to need some pretty strong hands and a pretty good grip so that you don't spill the dust all over the floor. So see, I've already spilled some stuff because it kind of just breaks free. I also found that a lot of the dust gets caught inside its, what they call a Cyclone Fan, I guess. So again, see, every time I try to open it, it seems a little bit jammed, and then it kind of, I have to struggle, and then it kind of flies open, and as you can imagine, if this was full of dust like it just was, all that dust is going to fall onto the floor. So this is just a bad design. This is flat out a bad hardware design. At this point, I'm just getting more and more disappointed. So it's time to throw this vacuum for a curve. I'm going to pit it against the $200 Shark Ion Robot R85 and see if it can keep up. All right, here we go. Alexa, ask Shark to start round robin.
All right, your robot has started cleaning.
Alexa, tell Samsung to start the robot vacuum. Notice that the Shark robot really can't go in straight lines. I've noticed that really immediately once I got it going. It's crisscrossing the room already, which is not great. This is the magnetic strip that it came with down here to avoid items on the floor. The Samsung bot comes with a much shorter magnetic strip, and it's really designed to be stuck to the floor. Notice that the Samsung is going relatively in straight lines across this carpet, which is quite nice, whereas my Shark vacuum is off, way off in the distance, going kind of doing its own thing, definitely not going in a straight line at all. And that's a big disadvantage on a carpeted surface where you want nice, clean, straight lines, which the Samsung bot is actually producing here. Now it has hit the bed. What is it going to do? This is its first challenge. Okay, I like what it did. Rather than kind of bounce off in 45-degree angle like the Shark did, what you see is that it has just continued making straight lines across the carpet. So far I'm fairly impressed. It finds an obstacle, turns around 180 degrees if it can't go further. I am curious whether or not it's going to read that magnetic strip from the Shark branded magnet. It does not appear to be respecting the magnetic boundary of the Shark product, and it is hitting some socks. So that's a typical obstacle for a vacuum that a vacuum could end up getting stuck on. It seemed to actually identify that as something it shouldn't try to go over, so that's pretty neat. Let's see if it can get under this bed here. It is indeed getting under the bed. So this is the first time I've seen the Samsung kind of break order here and go at a diagonal. I'm curious where it thinks it's going, what it thinks it's going to do now. It's kind of off its original path. Hey, now that's pretty nice. So it does have relatively advanced navigation skills. It has actually been able to recover its straight line path where it previously vacuumed. I'm fairly impressed with what it's doing here. The bed did present a little bit of a challenge, but overall, I like it. I like what it's doing. I like that it's creating nice straight lines on my carpet. And as I said right at the beginning of this demo, I feel that a carpeted bedroom or a wood floor bedroom is really the ideal location for a robot vacuum. I've never found them very useful in dining rooms or in kitchens where you may have a lot of obstacles. Now these two robots might actually encounter each other. We could have a collision. Aha, the shark cried chicken there and went the other way. Okay, time to see what these two guys picked up. I'm going to check their dustbins. Here's the shark iron robot. You can see that it did pick up some dust and hair off the floor, which is nice. So let's see what the Samsung bot did. I'd say the two vacuums picked up a similar amount of dust off the floor, and that was after just a few minutes, literally just a few minutes of vacuuming this carpet. So I'd say they're probably equally effective, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I would not expect the Samsung vacuum to actually be a better vacuum, despite all of the claims it makes. I think most of these vacuums probably perform the same in terms of how much dust they pick up. This looks to be a similar amount of dust. The shark vacuum tends to pack it up a little bit more, whereas it sits more loosely. Actually, it's falling out of this. I really don't like this design. As I pick this up, all the dust flies out. See that? You can actually maybe even see the dust coming out of there. It doesn't actually stay in the bin. Some of the dust fell on the floor here. I'll throw it back in there. I really don't like this design at all. I really don't. So I have left the Samsung robot vacuum to clean this room for the past half hour. And overall, I'm pretty pleased because it has, for the most part, stuck to straight lines. It had quite a lot of trouble navigating this piece of furniture. Okay, it really didn't stick very close to that wall at all. It looks like it didn't actually clean next to the wall, next to that trim. It just was a little confused by this chair sitting here. Really, it navigates best in wide open spaces. So I spent about a week with the Samsung R7260 getting to know all of its features, setting it up via all the smart home accounts and getting it working with voice control and smartphone control. And long story short, I think it's a decent vacuum, but I do not recommend that you buy it at its current price. It retails for $900. I see it selling for $800. It's absolutely not worth it. I actually give this 3 out of 5 stars, which is about the lowest rating I give to products. Potentially I could give it 2.5 stars, but honestly there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a total waste of money. I think that somehow this is kind of a pet project over at Samsung, and someone over there in South Korea is having fun kind of working on this project, but this is really not ready for prime time at its current price. I think they've probably built in a lot of high-tech elements into it. Everything from this cool little pop-up canister, which is extremely hard to empty and gets dust everywhere, to the camera that's built into the front that, as far as I'm concerned, does nothing for its navigation and potentially violates your privacy, to the fact that it actually can't really navigate corners because, unlike every other robot, it's got a straight front edge here, so it gets stuck on corners rather than kind of rounding around them. I found that wherever there were kind of tight passages, it would just kind of go down the middle and move on. All right, so if I had a wall and then a chair here, it would just vacuum kind of in between them and give up. It wouldn't try to get near the wall or near the chair. The other thing I think is just completely silly is it comes with 1 meter of magnetic strip, and Samsung expects you to stick this on the floor. This has double-sided tape so that you'd permanently fix it. Well, 1 meter is not going to get you very far. If you wanted to kind of cordon off a table or a set of chairs or maybe a play area, but this doesn't do me any good at all. I don't know what Samsung's thinking. This is totally useless to me. So I'm not even going to use it. Luckily, it did a pretty good job navigating, for instance, steps. It would not fall downstairs. It also did a pretty good job not attempting to vacuum up things like socks or small items on the ground. So in that regard, again, it's not a terrible vacuum. It's just a horrible price. I would put this at maybe around a $500 vacuum. Like I said, it's selling for $800, and at that price, there's no way I'd recommend it. There are a couple other kind of silly things that are part of this product that really are just inexplicable and from my point of view. First of all, there is a separate brush that it came with, the combo brush and brush cover. I looked through the manual like 10 times trying to figure out what this was, and the only time it's mentioned is in the inventory of items you get in the box. It doesn't say why I would use this different roller, nor how do I install it. So that's like a huge oversight. And then the remote, this very complex remote that's actually more complicated than most of Samsung's TV remotes, is just silly. They expect you to be interested in driving your vacuum. For instance, it actually has buttons. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you know that I post a lot of videos about remote control vehicles. I love remote control vehicles. I'm not interested in piloting my vacuum. The other thing that this allows you to do and adds no doubt significantly to the price is this has an infrared beam. You can actually point like a laser pointer with this remote and have the vacuum spot clean in that area. Kind of like a cat might follow an infrared beam. You can have your vacuum follow what you point at. That's again a complete novelty. Maybe in some parts of the world that would be kind of amusing. From my point of view, it probably added a lot to the cost and added nothing to the value of this vacuum. So that's all I can say. Like, it's a decent vacuum. It picks up dust. The best thing about it is that it generally travels in straight lines when there's nothing in its way. So in a wide open room with no furniture in it, it actually does a pretty good job going back and forth in straight lines, which is cool. So if you have a really large carpeted area with no furniture in it, it'll leave nice straight lines, which a lot of cheaper vacuums won't do. So that's the only area where I could see this being superior to a $300 vacuum. In every other regard, I just feel like it's an over-featured, underperforming, kind of poorly thought out product. So I don't usually review products that I don't like on the channel, but occasionally I do come across a product that I think is going to be fantastic and it lets me down. And that's what the R7260 did. I do not recommend it. Again, I give it 3 out of 5 stars, and if you see it go on sale for less than $500, it might be worth a buy. Until then, I'd actually recommend the vacuum I use every day, which is the Shark Ion robot vacuum. I think it's great. Nothing too fancy. It doesn't go in straight lines, but it cleans your room, and it's under $300. So I like it. So that's it for now. I didn't love this product, but I hope you liked this video. I tried to be as honest and objective as possible in testing this product to give you the information you need when you go to buy a robot vacuum. So if you did like it, please like and subscribe. As always, I'm Ari from the Tech Buyers Guru, and I'll catch you next time.